Robert Baldwin here, and that was Chopin's Étude in C major, Opus 10, number 1. And I want to say just a few words about this performance to close the loop on this topic, as my next videos are focused on audiation. Make sure you're subscribed and ring the notification bell so you don't miss those. I've already filmed them and they're really good. They'll really help you understand music better. And of course, when you understand it better, you'll play it better. I also want to apologize for my eyes and my throat. The pollen is currently assaulting me, so it is what it is. Hopefully I'll make it through this video. Anyway, so what you just heard was a whole beat performance of Chopin's C major Étude. When composers like Chopin and others from that era gave metronome marks, each tick of the metronome gives a part of the beat, a microbeat. So for this piece, Chopin indicated half note equals 176. So the half note is a macrobeat, and 2 ticks of a metronome set at 176 give you that macrobeat. This is 176, and you'll have to imagine the metronome swinging back and forth. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and, which is related to the tradition of a pendulum swinging back and forth, giving a big beat. However, modern metronome markings ignore layering of macrobeats and microbeats. Instead, each little tick represents a big beat. The upshot is, modern performers try to play this music twice as fast as it was intended. We call that a single beat interpretation. And I say try because those speeds are extremely impractical. Players sacrifice musicality to try to play faster and faster. In many cases, the single beat speed is literally impossible by human hands, which to me strongly supports the idea that we're missing a piece of the puzzle when we perform these pieces. The whole beat interpretation is that missing piece, but there is strong emotional opposition to whole beat on the internet and in music conservatories. Just listen to these quotes. Can we talk about the stupidity of Wim Wenders' double beat theory? Referring to Wim Wenders and his YouTube channel, Authentic Sound, which you should subscribe to if you haven't already. Wim does the scholarship involved in reconstructing historical tempi, and his methodology is impeccable, and his work ethic. A couple more quotes. I've just learned about the whole beat conspiracy theory. Or this one. I think it's another A432 is the frequency of the universe flat earther way of feeling special about your own way, knowing a hidden truth the sheep are too dumb to realize. The thing is, it's nothing of the sort. And frankly, there should be no place in the professional discourse for this kind of charged response. Because there's a real cost to the culture when musicians pursue the single beat supremacy without question, both in terms of injured performers and a loss of depth of musical understanding. I mean, we're discussing sophisticated musical expression. Listening at double speed could be compared to skimming a complicated text. It's impossible to hear the nuance, even though nuance is what Chopin was known for as a performer, more than velocity and athleticism. I think these commenters watched half of one of Wim's videos 10 years ago and made up their mind that he was wrong. But reconstructing what composers were thinking is fairly complex. But there are primary sources that support whole beat, although single beaters tend to not recognize those, even though every week Wim is putting out new videos to discuss them. It's complicated because there's evidence that appears to support single beat at first glance, like the fact that in the original instructions to Melzel's metronome, they say that each tick of the metronome forms part of the intended time. But whole beat deniers tend to ignore the part in that instruction. Each tick is a part of the intended time, specifically half. My point is, it serves no one to treat the scholarly discussion in such an emotionally charged way. And then there are comments like this one from my last video. D-digit 50 wrote, I guess you never listened to Rachmaninoff playing his own music or Art Tatum. Clara Schumann students, let me just stop for a minute because I don't understand the point here. Rachmaninoff was writing mostly in the early 20th century, possibly after single beat metronome marks had become the norm. Art Tatum was a brilliant improviser. I guess D-digit 50 is just informing me that people can play fast. And like, no kidding. People have been playing fast for centuries. In fact, primary sources report that in the 19th century, performers would play the music of Chopin much faster than marked. Think about that for a minute. If the modern single beat interpretation is already flirting with impossibility, or in some cases has married impossibility, the idea of 19th century composers playing even faster than that is completely implausible, especially considering period instruments couldn't be played as fast as a modern, well-regulated instrument. Anyway, continuing. Music played at 2 ticks per beat can sound very beautiful. Check out Bernard Ruchtin, not familiar with Bernard. But please don't claim to your audience that is what composer's intent was. This is the type of comment that I've been most surprised about since I've been talking about whole beat. Misplaced concern. I mean, when I read this, it sounds like they want to protect you from my silly idea, when in reality, no one suffers from a whole beat performance practice. In reality, very many people are currently suffering from injury from pursuing single beat speeds because they think they're trying to be faithful to the score. We have a culture where single beat has won. It's the unquestioned truth of the conservatory and performance world. And people are worried that if people hear this dangerous whole beat idea, then what will happen? What exactly are they protecting you from? Anyway, moving on. Chopin's Études are meant to be difficult, both technically and musically. Liszt's Transcendental Études likewise. Also, Czerny's velocity studies are marked with seemingly impossible tempi, but that is the point. Push the limits of technique. Well, Czerny's tempi aren't seemingly impossible, they're impossible. And if anyone tells you otherwise, tell them you want to hear their single beat performance. It will not happen. As far as these etudes meant to be difficult, I don't know. Maybe. Chopin never said anything like that. They weren't meant to be difficult, they were meant to be music. Music that explores a particular skill. That's what an etude is, a study. In this case, it's a study on broad arpeggios that sweep up and down the keyboard. And it is not easy in whole beat. Anybody who says that is lying, grandstanding, or they haven't tried it. If it's easy, post your own performance. If it's good, everybody wins. If it's not, well, at least we learned something. Moving on. Have you ever tried to play Godowsky's arrangements of Chopin's Études? How about McDowell's Witch's Dance at his tempo indication? You might say, impossible. I never said that. But you can watch a video of Stephen Howe playing it at that tempo. And again, I don't know what the point is here. Great players can do incredible feats. Realizing a composer's whole beat intentions doesn't mean we lose fast performers. We can still have the Richters and Kissens and Lisitzes. People are free to play how they want. The question of the composer's intention is a different matter. Moving on, how about Shostakovich playing his own music? Try listening to Beethoven's late quartets at 1/2 speed. My God! So, no to Shostakovich. I haven't listened to that, not recently anyway, I don't remember. But he's a 20th century composer, presumably after single beat became the common practice. Also no to Beethoven's late quartets, but I have listened to Wim Wenders' performance of the Allegretto from Beethoven's 7th Symphony in whole beat. And I can see how someone might respond, my God. It's much slower than we in the 21st century are used to hearing. But the more I listened to it, the less I doubted that it could be the real deal. In fact, it became a revelation, especially with regard to rhythmic interplay between instruments. Listening in a single beat world has robbed listeners of fully experiencing the richness of this repertoire. I have a feeling it's the same with the quartets. Moving on, sometimes concert pianists, mostly the younger crowd, tend to play too fast at the expense of musicality, but they will mellow out as they age. Well, they don't mellow out with age, they stop performing, sometimes because of injury. I wonder if D-Digity 50 realizes who they're talking to. They're talking about me. I got my degrees playing single beat tempi. I mean, I still remember that. Hell, the recordings are on YouTube. I'm not dumber now, I'm smarter, and I have more information. I didn't know that composers intended 2 ticks of the metronome to be a macro beat. I wasn't even taught what a macro beat was, even though those degrees cost thousands of dollars. This is an education problem, not a younger crowd problem. Fortunately, it's never a bad time to learn something new. However, they will never play so-called whole beat. That's why I'm talking about it. More people should play so-called whole beat. When they do, we'll have more good music and fewer injured performers. If you, talking about me, if you think Chopin wanted Opus 10 No. 1 played at half the single beat tempo marked, consider his piano and how awful it would have sounded on an instrument without the sonority of a modern grand. That's your bias talking. Bias towards only hearing it the way you've heard it. And again, older instruments were harder to play fast than modern ones. Consider that. Anyway, like I've said before, anyone who wants to dive into this topic, I encourage you to engage with the music, as I've done. Whole beat deniers have said some vile things against Wim and against me personally. I don't particularly enjoy that. It's not a good look for the profession, and it doesn't help learners learn. But when the focus is on music, then the verbal warfare becomes less and less pertinent. My message to the single beat crowd is just retract your claws, please. We're talking about music and actual people. You can deal with hearing a tiny number of people play slower than what you're used to. At the end of the day, as a performer, I'm completely free to play this music or any music however I want to, and so are you. But in my role as a teacher, I have a responsibility to make sure that nothing I say can result in injury to my students, either physical injury or just contributing to them feeling less musical instead of more musical. And that happens every second of every day. That's not a scary conspiracy theory. It's literally the current state of the culture. So in the spirit of helping learners and engaging with music, I'll close with a couple of specific pointers on this piece. And if you're interested in learning more about useful things that aren't taught in conservatory, please check out the courses on my website, which I'll link in the description. So here are 2 pointers, both of which I learned from Sheila Page, who's one of the best teachers in the country. I haven't talked with Sheila about whole beat, so I don't know where she stands on that. But the principles of efficient movement are the same for all of us, even if you haven't joined us in the whole beat world yet. First, let's talk about shaping in the first 2 bars. Even though this arpeggio spans a tenth, there's no part of my being that's thinking about stretching to a tenth. If you're thinking of this etude as a stretching exercise, you're going to get wrecked. Instead, it's a study on forearm movement and balancing behind each finger. The forearm movements are lateral movement, up and down, rotation, and in and out. And if you don't know about those, there's a great lesson on piano technique in my Music Essentials course linked in the description. Each of those 4 forearm movements plays an important role in this piece, but it's too much to try to think about all 4 of those movements. So think of one at a time, and over time, you'll be able to synthesize those into your playing. First, lateral movement. As you're going up and down the entire keyboard, your right arm is going to have to be leading your body to the right. On the way down, your arm will kind of be bringing your body back to the left. I'm not scooting my butt on the bench, but I am leaning so that I don't end up with my shoulder held out this way with a bunch of unsprung weight that is really hard on shoulders. The other thing I'm doing here is taking the first note of the 16th notes, the right hand arpeggio, taking this with the left hand thumb. That allows me to be more relaxed with my right hand when the right hand comes in now on G. So I'm moving right, and now I'm coming back left. So that's lateral movement. There's also up and down movement. Go up and then go up and then go up and then go down and then go down and then go down and then go down. There's also rotation always between any 2 notes that you ever play. I'm not thinking about that so much though. So left, right, right, left, right, 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 left, right, 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 left, right, 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 left, 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 right. So that kind of takes care of itself. But the in and out is a biggie. Going in for the shorter fingers, pinky and ring finger in particular, Going in for that note really helps me get ping on that note, which is what the score calls for, because there's accents on these E's. Hopefully that shaping will help you play that passage. And the other passage I want to look at is this A major arpeggio in bars 34 and 35. This can be a real finger breaker, but here's a solution that works great. Again, thanks to Sheila. Again, I'm going to take the first 16th note with the left hand. So right hand starts on E. Use 1, 2, 4, 2, 1, 2, 4, 2, 1, 2, 4, 2, 1, 2, 4, 2, 1, 2, 4, 2, 1, 2, 4, 2, 1, 2, 4, 2, 1, left, left. Hope that helps. Thanks for watching, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next videos on audiation. Take care.